if somebody said, like, you have such and such amount of time to ingest such and such amount of calories, I think I would pick Samoa's to do it. Because it wouldn't take a whole lot.
Who would be throwing down said mandate?
I don't know, like Mr. Beast or something. Probably some stupid challenge. Beast. Isn't that the guy who does all the weird things? It's like, spend 4 days in a cage and I'll give you $1 million.
What's going on, everyone? This is the Aggie Gameday Extra Podcast. I'm Texas A&M senior reporter extraordinaire Travis L. Brown here at KBTX. It's the new year. It's been a while since we've done this. Over there, Max Crawford, chief meteorologist. Max?
Hey,
buddy.
Good.
Good.
Not tired.
Tyler Shaw over here. Tyler, how are you?
Good. Doing well.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've been able to pod together because, like holidays and things like that. A lot has happened. We're going to get to that. But, like, how was y'all's, you both first Christmas with a child? I mean, you've had a child, but a new child. First Christmas.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think so.
Several times, actually.
Yes.
How was Christmas?
With new baby. It was great. I think the best part was watching my older child get excited for her younger brother. I mean, he's still too young, even though it's going on. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
My older child was not excited for the younger child to have gifts because he didn't quite understand. He doesn't quite understand yet.
Gifts,
Yeah, he didn't quite understand yet, especially because his birthday's on Christmas Eve, and so there's layers to it that other people get gifts on Christmas, and so when Hallie had gifts, he was like, "Why can't I open those?" Which we eventually did, like, let him help open her presents. But it was difficult explaining to him, like, no, those are her presents, not yours. Also, you don't want teething toys. You're 3, so back off, kid. But it was
they're bright and colorful.
Yeah,
and they're hers, so they could be mine.
right. Yeah, that's true. But it was phenomenal. I am still recovering from it, but it was wonderful.
This is the question I was thinking about with those of you that have children. Does Santa? We all know Santa comes on Christmas Eve. Does Santa wrap presents or leave presents unwrapped? Because I know Santa does different things at different houses.
Ours are unwrapped.
Unwrapped?
It makes a distinction. The Santa presents are unwrapped, and then everything, if you're getting something from grandma or from mom and dad or, whoever, it's wrapped.
You know what? I kind of like that, but that's not how it grew up. Like, everything was wrapped, maybe just in a different wrapping paper was Santa's stuff. But everything was wrapped, almost unless it was just like a really big gift or like it was a bicycle or something. They just had a bow on it. Like, that was clearly from Santa. But I like that. I think we're going to employ that style because that's less things we have to
save on wrapping paper.
Yeah.
You're going to email the North Pole.
Right.
Tell them, you're going to opt out of
scrub the wrapping paper, you guys. We don't need it. It's less for dad to clean up. Are you the dad with the trash bag?
I am.
Yeah, same. Very much same.
Yeah, the very stereotypical dad.
Which is so funny because Kimberly is the neat one, and I'm the messy one, but she wanted the wrapping paper all around for the photo op of Mason, like, going through everything afterwards and just standing among the rubble, and I was like, that bothers me.
Yeah, I'm not neat by any means.
Yeah.
For some reason, Christmas, and I get all that wrapping paper in the
bag.
I like it all.
You like it strewn about.
Are
the
same.
Okay.
Same vein. We like it all over.
Yeah, but it was wonderful. It was such a good time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, as we mentioned to kick this thing off, we missed a lot in being off for 2 weeks because so much has gone on, and so we're going to jump right in to the conversation this week with everything that has transpired over these next week. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. Let's start with volleyball. They won a national title. Yeah. I think kind of not at all what most of us said we were expecting when maybe the NCAA tournament bracket was released. But Jamie Morrison, after they went and beat Nebraska, which is kind of the reason why we thought they wouldn't necessarily make it that far, he came back. People went to Reed Arena, welcome him, and he said right there, the next time that we come back, we'll be bringing back a national championship. And sure shooting. That's exactly what they did, is went and won a national title and brought it back.
Yeah, Jamie's been impressive since he got on campus. He's basically spoken everything into existence, and he kind of exuded a little bit of that cockiness kind of when he stirred on, but he's backed everything up. I mean, it's hard to say anything against that when you bring home a national title. And yeah, that Nebraska match ended up being basically the national championship match. I mean, everything from there,
for all intents and purposes.
Because after that, A&M swept. I mean, there was no drama after that, pretty much.
What game was the reverse sweep? Was that after Nebraska? Before Nebraska.
It was Louisville right before Nebraska. So those two were kind of the edge of your nail.
Yeah, and then the two after that were just like, whatever. Yeah, sure. I guess we'll go and take this thing. Which the national championship itself against Kentucky. At one point it was like 9-2 them, and then we just never looked back.
Yeah,
it was just
it was never competitive after that.
Insane, absolutely insane. I think with the context added, it is one of the best collegiate sports stories of the year.
Yeah. Full disclosure, Tyler Shaw and I and our families, I think there's probably some level to us that thought, okay, this was a great run, but there's no way it's going like the distance. And so the national championship day, our families and some of the other KBTX families were over at Kinder Hill Brew Lab playing some music bingo and watching the game on TV. And then it gets to that third set and they're winning, and Tyler and I look at each other like, well, guess we're going into the office.
Time to go to work.
Or let's sort to the car and got my laptop and started writing a national title story. Great work by Dylan Christwakis up there.
Was on scene.
Who was on scene getting everything for us. But man, it was a cool scene. And I think as has been the case from what he said, Trev Alberts, this athletic department, is very willing to pour money into volleyball. And I think it paid dividends well before they thought probably it would have. So
yeah, it put A&M volleyball on the map, and I'm very curious to see what sort of upgrades, for lack of a better word, are coming for the program. I think Coach Morrison's very happy here, but I do think that I'm sure he's looking at things as they sit right now from an infrastructure standpoint and going, you know what, there's some things that we could make a little better. So could be interesting.
Let's go on to football, and that is that the football team got to host a college football playoff first round game in Kyle Field, which is a lot of people were excited about. But then once that game happened, the excitement quickly faded because A&M was bounced by Miami in that game. Now, I think if we were done this episode right after that game ended, the feeling would be a little bit different than it is now after all of us watched Miami take down Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. So now that we're a little bit out, Max, what's your kind of feelings on that game and especially losing to that Miami team?
Well, I do agree with you that it's a very good thing we didn't record it that afternoon or even that next week, because I was pretty down about it. I think when you look at the Elko era so far, the biggest frustration that you have, which is a short list, by the way, but the biggest frustration that a lot of people have is just the way that we finish seasons and things like that. If you're looking at 24 and that game against Texas, that we were still in somehow without even scoring an offensive touchdown, you think, man, all of this build up to this rivalry returning, and it's at Kyle Field, and Kyle Field is juiced up and amped up, and it's such a great environment. And like at the start of that game, it was maybe the loudest I'd ever heard Kyle, and then we fall flat. We just kind of fail to capitalize on that opportunity. The Miami game kind of felt like that. It was awesome that we were in it the entire game, and I think right up until that last interception was thrown, I thought we were going to win. So that you take that for what it's worth as well. But yeah, it was another very, very deflating thing. It led to questions of, is this our ceiling with this particular group of athletes that are there? Is this our ceiling as a program? Is this that? And I think in the moment you're thinking, well, it is, and stuff like that. But the answer is, of course, it isn't. It's the end of the second season, and if you're just talking regular season, it was 11-1, and losing that playoff game, albeit at home, was very, very depressing. but it was such a cool environment from start to almost finish. I wish it would have been an afternoon or, of course, an evening kickoff, but like it still felt really, really cool to have December football at Kyle Field. I hope we get to do it again, almost more than I hope we have a bye. Like I'm almost rooting for a 5 to 8 seed more than I am a 1 to 4 seed moving forward because it was just so freaking cool. Like having game day there was a lot of fun. It was not cold. But other than that, it was a really, really good time, sans the results. And yeah, I think if you look at it as what has happened over the past couple of weeks, all of a sudden Miami is looking like the team that for a lot of the season we thought that they were. You know, so many times we thought, okay, it's got to be Ohio State, Indiana, Miami, and then whoever else. And you know, a lot of people would put A&M right after that. And then they had a little bit of a slide, but they seem to be right back to form. Their defense is freaking scary. Their defensive line, especially. Their offense does what they need to do, and it seems like they have that suffocating presence. And I'm really, really curious to see what the national championship ends up being. But I would be shocked if it wasn't Indiana versus Miami.
I think with the thing that has been proven so far in these playoffs is that it's the same thing that was said about the SEC for years and years. It's the battle in the trenches that
absolutely
you can win the battles in the trenches. That's how you win championships. That's how you win playoff games. Mario Cristobal's former offensive lineman. He seems to have that offensive line clicking really well. A&M's defensive front that had, you know, the SEC sack leader and one of the nation's best tackle for loss teams. They weren't getting in on the quarterback very well in that game. And then their defensive front is just otherworldly. Bain has been just a force up there, kind of looking like he was early in the season. So I think they're clicking at the right time, and they're especially clicking in the trenches. And so that's exactly why A&M lost that game, and that's why Ohio State lost that game. And on the converse, that's why Miami is in the semifinals.
Yeah, it was one in the. I mean, they pushed A&M around there on the line of scrimmage, which didn't really happen this season. And I think that's being addressed right now. The difficult thing about all this is, as veteran of this team was, I mean, they are losing all of their offensive line starters. They're losing a good amount on the defensive line as well. So the good players you had, you know, you're not retaining as many just because they're graduating and moving on and going to the draft and whatnot. But they are addressing that right now in the portal.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see what it looks like next year. They know that is an emphasis.
I think that could be a completely different conversation in and of itself, almost even a different pod. And the question was, okay, are we going to address that with in-house talent? Are we just going to take care of that with the players that we already have on hand, the signees and stuff like that? Well, very clearly, the answer was no. We will supplement talent as talent, however things shape out in spring and fall camp. But it was clear that Cushing and Elko said, no, we need to go get some proven SEC talent.
Let's move on. That's the next bullet point here on the thing, is that the transfer portal window is open. We can talk a little about that and then bounce back and forth between football, CFP, the way the season went, and this portal. But it opened last Friday, and A&M has been at work. Let's start with the players that have exited. This is the players that are out. On offense, only 3 offensive players so far left. That's wide receiver Isaiah Williams, quarterback Miles O'Neill, tight end Theo Mellon-Orstrom, and then on defense, a couple of walk-ons there, J.R. Rosenberg and Benjamin Bruce. But then you have cornerback Javon Thomas, defensive end Ryan Kennedy, Solomon Williams, defensive end Jordan Price, Bryce Anderson, Tristan Jernigan, Colby Sellers, special teams a kicker Liam Padrone, and a punter Truett Toomey, that are all in the transfer portal right now. What they brought in so far is there actually this is 10 on here. There's 11th that came in shortly right before we started recording this podcast on Wednesday. But we have Houston Thomas, and College Station native, tight end, Ray Coney, a linebacker from Tulsa, Cohen Eccles, offensive lineman from LSU, another LSU offensive lineman, Tyree Adams, came in today. A tight end, Richie Anderson from Fresno State. Tafik Baird from Colorado is a safety. But one of the biggest, two gets on the list, a kicker, David Olano from Illinois. Trayvon Baugh, another offensive lineman from South Carolina. Brandon Davis Swain, defensive end from Colorado. And Ryan Henderson from San Diego State, another defensive end. You talked about it. A&M is going to lose their top 6 offensive linemen, all 5 starters, because Chase DeSantis declared for the NFL draft. The other 4 were out of eligibility. Then you also have Ruben Fothery and Koli Faiu, who are all out of eligibility as well. So they started with 3 offensive linemen so far. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they tried to grab at least maybe one more out there. But what do we make of the comings and goings of the portal?
I don't like having lost Rylan Kennedy and Solomon Williams specifically. I think those are the 2 that I would have loved to have returning another year under the quote-unquote Moffitt method, and just like returning experience in the trenches like we've been talking about for the past 10 minutes now. I would have liked to have retained Tristan Jernigan as well. Isaiah Williams, I think, had potential, but it seems kind of clear just reading the tea leaves and what the Portalverse is saying, that we are trying to upgrade in proven talent on the wide receiver room as well.
Should be noted, Isaiah Williams is already committed to Kansas City.
Yes.
Going with Colin.
Yeah, and Miles O'Neill already to UNC. I think Javon Thomas maybe found a new spot as well as Rylan Kennedy.
Florida State.
Yeah.
The other one was Solomon Williams to Vanderbilt.
Okay, and Theo, I think, is still undecided, as well as maybe Tristan Jernigan. I would have liked it. I like Tristan Jernigan just because of the Fighting Irish meme. I didn't know anything else about him. But all of that to say, I don't like it when contributors go into the portal, because it makes me think, well, but you had a chance, especially when there's graduating or declaring people in front of them. Like Solomon Williams and Rylan Kennedy, perfect example. Cassius Howell leaving, and Unyedem and all those guys. It just seemed to me like now it's wide open for you to compete for a starting position. We don't know all the ins and outs of that, so it's not like I'm blaming them for that or anything. But it seems like those 2 defensive end talents that we're trying to lock down were among the most sought after in the portal. So I'm excited about that. I think Ray Coney is a dude that hopefully we can plug and play. And then I just see the emphasis on the trenches here. It seems like we kind of addressed the kicking need, even though we also signed a really talented kicker as well. And I like that we pulled a hometown kid in Houston Thomas. So I like where we're at so far. I think it is lacking a splash or 2. If I'm being completely honest, I would like
about a Cam Coleman splash.
So specifically, yes. I mean, that's who I'm thinking of there. I don't think it has to be Cam Coleman. I envy him because of the amount of dollar signs that are being put in front of him, but I don't envy any other part of the process that he's going through right now, because I'm sure his phone is ringing off the hook from schools, from agent, from parents, and he's being pulled every which way. And so I don't envy him in that way. But I would love if we had some sort of pickup like that to add to what has also been a really good signing class, where I think we had a couple of high-end 4-stars and a 5-star that will contribute next year. So I like where we're at, and again, I like how we're addressing the trench need, because not to just do this with complete maroon sunglasses on. I think we saw what happened with a team recently who even beat us, so what do I know? About addressing that O-line shortage after Texas lost their entire starting line last season.
That was a weakness.
They didn't really bring anybody in. They said, you know what, we're going to address that with the people that we already have in the program, and that ended up being one of their true weaknesses, especially the first whole half of the season, if not the first 3 quarters of the season. And again, they beat us, so what do I know? But I'm glad we're not going that route. I very much trust Cushing and the talent evaluators like Derek Miller and Elko and stuff like that. And it seems like they're saying, yeah, we have that, but we're also going to fill some gaps with some people who have some big boy football experience.
Well, all 3 of the offensive linemen they brought in have starting SEC experience. Yeah. So, I mean, it was very impressive what they did was almost very necessary at the same time.
Right.
It's, if you want to stay competitive and stay at this level, they're going to need to bring in the kind of talent they did.
And I think
line.
I think also we have the luxury of having a returning quarterback who obviously was not flawless. And the way that you try to improve his completion percentage or allow him to use his feet better on design runs or work the RPO game better, whatever it is that the philosophy is for that, the only way he's going to get better statistically is if his offensive line is just as good or better. Or you bring in so much wide receiver talent that can do yards after catch, which, again, I think they're trying to address that as well. But the offensive line, I think, is more important there.
I'll be interested to see what these offensive linemen look like. If you, for those of you who put any stock in Pro Football Focus, there wasn't a whole lot of good grades coming out this season from those guys. But, like you said, there's Tommy Moffitt. There's a whole other coaching staff. What can they do with a change of scenery? Two of those guys coming from LSU, not necessarily the best run offense last season, but there's a lot of factors and things that go into that. So curious to see how those guys square up. The other one that I mentioned earlier and forgot to talk about on the commitments, today A&M got defensive end Anto Saka from Northwestern. Great. That's a great name for a defensive end. He's also a 4-star commit out or prospect by 247 out of the transfer portal. So he's probably the highest rated recruit they've gotten so far.
Any relation to Bukayo Saka of the Arsenal Football Club?
I don't think so.
Me neither.
Maybe he has some sweet footwork, and that's why
could be.
He
probably does.
Quarterback
Yep.
so well. Ryan Henderson is another one that stands out too. We were able to talk to him today. We'll have maybe I may throw a little bit of that on the end of the podcast today to hear a little bit about what he had to say. But he led the Mountain West in sacks last year, and he's coming into a A&M defensive line where he's going to have some competition. It kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it, a little bit? Guy comes from a G5 program.
Yeah, someone from Bowling Green.
Yeah, leads that conference, comes over here, gets the job done. And it kind of sounds like a little bit like Cassius Howell, and I absolutely acknowledged that and said, that's something I want to do. So that's going to be interesting. I would not expect this to be the complete list, especially with the number of people that they have. They already have Torian York that declared for the NFL draft. We mentioned Chase Besantis, Casey Concepcion is going out early. Will Lee is going out, and then just a host of players who are out of eligibility so far. I think we were talking about yesterday. I believe it's like 26 or 27 total players that roster positions are going to lose this year.
Yeah, at least. It's going to be a whole brand new looking team. Pretty much.
Yeah,
personnel wise,
right. And obviously you retain a couple of key players there, but you're losing a lot of key players too. I'm very curious to see who all gets combine invites because I think there are a couple of fringe people that I would be, as an Aggie fan, upset if they didn't, but I think would be really, really cool if they did. Like, I'm thinking like Tyreek Chappelle. And I think York and Will Lee and Casey are obviously all going to get combine invites and then get drafted and stuff like that. But, Armaji Reed Adams, like, is he going to get an invite to the combine and then get drafted and stuff like that? I'm thinking, is it going to be 2 or 3 Aggies that get drafted this year? Or is it going to be like a half dozen? And I think you two would probably be like probably 2 or 3. But
down is over.
Yeah, I think it's possible. Yeah. Well, actually, yeah.
I was. It was interesting looking at just the early draft stuff. And Kuiper has Torian York as the 7th best. What do you call it?
It's an inside linebacker, isn't it?
He had another off ball linebacker.
Oh, okay.
Term that I've never actually even heard of. Because they have Cassius Howell as an outside linebacker,
right?
Which makes sense at the next level. Cassius Howell is up there in his top 10. Torian York is 7th, so you would think those two guys get a draft combine. Casey Concepcion is in the top wide receivers, top 10. He would probably get an invite. Trey Zune is in his top outside lineman. Interior lineman Chase Besantis was like his first honorable mention.
Okay.
Which was interesting. for DeSantis, who declared out. I think Torian York is kind of the most interesting one to me because he's a guy that you probably could have seen come back for another year,
especially in this era.
Yeah, but like, what good is another? I think the risk doesn't necessarily outweigh the reward if you want to get some pro football under your belt because of is he going to put up any better numbers?
Yeah.
With who they return next year
Right.
on defense. It probably was the right time for him to go ahead and make that jump, even if it's not. There's some guys that you're like, he might not go till the third or fourth round. He might not be a third day guy. And you're like, why did they do that? Yeah, I'm thinking back of who was the tight end that
Sternberger.
not Sternberger.
Oh. Hudson Prelo.
No. Anyway, I think for Torian
Jalen Weidemeyer?
Jalen Weidemeyer.
He was a late round gag. Yeah.
He probably should have come back for another year. But I think Torian, this is actually probably, even if he is around 3 or a second day guy or even a third day guy, probably a good decision because I don't know how much you're going to improve your draft stock. Just get into the NFL, get with the team, show your work ethic, and make a career of it. And who cares where you're drafted?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense for him. He even said, no one in my family's been to the NFL, played in the NFL. So it makes perfect sense for him to go. The only reason I would say for him, if it would make sense for him to stay, is if he really just wants to beat Texas. Because, man, both of those, I know, were just gut-wrenching for him.
Those were his best interviews.
He hated losing to Texas, and it happened twice, and it was just so that would be the only thing that would make total sense of, like...
Maybe he can come back and beat him as a coach one year. Down the road, yeah.
Well, let's get on here to a little bit of A&M men's basketball, because last night was a wild one. We'll probably talk a lot about that, but because of that wild one in Auburn last night that they won on the very, very last second of the game, they're 2-0 in SEC play, which is not probably something I would have said I would have predicted or expected.
They're the only 2-0. Well, we're recording this Wednesday afternoon before the games have started, so that's going to be dated. But as of right now, as of Tuesday night, they're the only 2-0 SEC team.
Yeah. My big question, I wrote about this, going into their conference opener against LSU. I didn't think we necessarily knew who or what this team was yet because of how easy their non-conference schedule was. They're ranked 15th from last. They're the 15th worst non-conference schedule in the country, according to KenPom. And so it's easy to score 110 points a million times against some of the worst quad 4 teams in the country. But how were they going to fare in SEC play? And so far, it's been pretty good. Now, both games have come down to the wire, and they've had some luck, really, honestly, to go along with it, because they tried to give 2 games away late in the game, but they managed to pull those out. Y'all had the more. I was watching from home and wrote from home. Y'all were doing the 10 o'clock. Y'all had a little bit more of an adventure with covering that game last night on the 10 o'clock news.
Yeah, well, I had gotten back from putting my kids to bed, and I think we were down 16. Mm-hmm. And I walked up and I said to Tyler, and I said, yeah, this is about what I was expecting. Auburn's a very talented team, and I thought that there were going to be several teams, and I still think so, that would just kind of out-talent us and just not kind of play with the buckyball thing and just kind of outscore us, and we'd go cold from 2 and 3, and it just wouldn't work. And so I was kind of expecting Auburn to beat us, especially at Auburn, by like 20 points. And then we went on that crazy run, and Tyler came back into the Weather Center and was like, hey, they're only down, such and such points. And then they ended up taking the lead. And then they ended up, was the biggest lead? Yeah, about 10 to 12 points. And I think there was a minute left, and we were still up by 10. And LSU, like you said, was very, very similar, where we were up by multiple possessions and ended up, just barely scratching and clawing our way out. And LSU had a shot to win it, I believe, with a buzzer beater as well. And to shorten this story a little bit, we knew that it was going to come down to it because of all the timeouts and stoppage, that the game was going to go final right as Tyler was wrapping up his sportscast. And we assumed it was going to be a win. And I was kind of watching it from the sports room while Tyler was doing his thing. And I told him, okay, I'll either, hold up a W or an L, and I'll make sure the producers know what the final was so they can update the graphic. And I watch the inbound pass, and then, he takes a couple steps and chunks it up. And of course he sinks it. And then the score goes final. And so what was it? 91-90?
91-90.
Auburn. And so I get ticked off and storm into the studio and throw up a big L for Tyler. And
can you do that again right for the camera?
And Tyler it gets that update from the producer too, and so it's all in there, and they say 91-90, okay, and then we wrap up the sportscast. And then he opens that door back up because Tyler always goes and checks on something before the end of the newscast and says, why does it say that? And it said final, what was it, 89
90 to 88.
90 to 88 A&M. I was like, well, that's weird. And then we didn't actually see all the reviewing and stuff. Luckily, we have DVR, and so we went back and looked at it, that it was reviewed. And so we kind of fake newsed the Brazos Valley. But fortunately, as we came back, we said, hey, they went back and reviewed it. And in fact, A&M did win. And I don't recall ever having seen that before.
That was
I could be wrong.
Lengthy review. I mean, there have been buzzer beaters where they've immediately gone to review, and it's in question. But this one almost seemed like it wasn't in question when it happened. I mean, everyone was convinced that shot was good, and it took forever for them to reverse that call.
Yeah,
which some screenshots I've seen, I think was the right call. That was about as close as you could get.
Right.
If it was 0.7 on the clock, that's a good shot. And game over.
But it was 0.6.
The real point of conversation, too, and what Bucky McMillan harped on a lot after the game was the fact that he didn't think that shot should have even been allowed because they tried to they intentionally miss the second free throw with 2 seconds left right before. And from what it looked like, the ball did graze the rim, but it was very close. Of course, if the ball doesn't touch the rim, no time comes off the clock. Auburn gets an inbound play. The refs blew it down, and I went over to check the play. I thought that they had called a foul initially once Auburn had rebounded the ball off the intentional miss, but there was 0.6 left on the clock, and that's what gave Auburn the opportunity to have that last play. Bucky McMillan said there was a clock malfunction, all of this kinds of stuff before. What did you make of that whole argument? Because it seemed, I mean, there might be something to it, but it seemed a little silly once it was all said and done and they won the way that they won.
Yeah, I don't know why you need to be so, I guess, fixated on that. Because, yes, there was a clock malfunction, and, maybe that shouldn't have happened, but these things happen in sports, like uncontrollable factors. Maybe don't miss that. I mean, he explained why they missed the free throw because they wanted to catch Auburn on their heels, not have an inbounds pass, which they ended up with an inbounds pass. That's what he was mad at. But there was a clock malfunction. Things happen. There are focus on the controllable parts of the game, which is don't give up a certain the certain lead. So I get the frustration, but you won. So yeah, it was an interesting.
I don't know, having to go the length of the court and hit a three to tie the game from a probably way further back than they ultimately got the shot from. I don't know why you. I mean, I get it. I don't know if I would have called for the intentional miss there.
I got it at the time, but thinking back, you're like, no, you make the free throw and you're up 3. The worst that happens is you go to overtime. And I get maybe you don't have the momentum, but just the chance to even get to overtime is crazy.
Basically, what Bucky decided to do is the coach who's on the road in football in the first overtime said, we're going for 2 at the beginning kind of thing.
Right.
Just end it here. Let's just try to end it here.
Yeah, I think
to not have to go to overtime in that environment.
I think that's a good equivalence, like given how much time was left and stuff like that. Not that I will claim to know basketball by any stretch, which, by the way, this time in between where football is done and baseball hasn't started yet, and we're just talking basketball, I'm going to lean on you guys pretty heavily. And so if I go on a rant about basketball that has anything to do with just beyond just a general sense, just tell me to stop. But yeah, I like that equivalence. I think as long as you can back up both of those missions that you have there, and as long as you end up getting the win, then it doesn't really make a difference.
The difference, though, is going for 2. In those scenarios, you're going for the win because if you miss it, you lose.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's a good point.
The chance that they would even get to, they were up.
Yeah.
So you make that free throw. Okay, they have a 3/4 court heave that they have to make. What's the percentage that's going to happen? 1 out of 100. So yes, there was a possibility you went to overtime, but there was also a possibility of a clock malfunction.
Yeah,
maybe the 2 are just as equal.
Or you just make that first free throw, and then it's easy. You say, okay, I'll just make the second one now.
Was there even really a clock? No, I mean, was it more? They
see,
it dead.
But then,
and they should have. I thought it was just that they should have seen the game out, seen the clock out before blowing it dead, and then going to review if it hit the rim or not. Instead of blowing it down, because it didn't seem like foul call.
And you bring up a good point, because I saw another claim that said if they blew it dead when they blew it dead, Auburn chunked it. You remember they threw it to that side of the court anyway, and it should have been A&M's ball, because that Auburn player chunked it thinking that he didn't have any time, and it went out of bounds, and it should have been out on Auburn because they blew the whistle after that. So, you can get into the weeds about the way that it happened. I don't necessarily know that it was poorly officiated, but yeah, I feel like there's a couple of ways that it could have gone down, and I don't know. A&M just ended up winning, and I think this is let's move on here.
Well, I think that the moral to the story in this game, that is the kind of overarching concept that we were talking about with A&M being 2-0, is that buckyball seems to be in place pretty well. The reason that they were 16 down and then all of a sudden fought back to be in the situation that they were was because their press was just otherworldly. They scored. They went on, what was it, an
11-0 run in 28 seconds.
26 seconds, because they kept getting steals in Auburn's backcourt and just going it for layups, hitting threes. It was part of a 33-6 run that got them back into the game, and then with the lead, but then they surrendered the lead late, and it ended up being a close game. But that to be said, like, when they need to turn buckyball on, it seems like they can flip that switch pretty well.
Well, that's how they won the LSU game late too, was with that full court press. So in both SEC games, they won down to the wire games because their press worked. And we'll probably see this a lot this year, where buckyball swings, the pendulum's going to swing both ways. We're going to see these runs where they score 20 in a row, unanswered, and they win games like that. But if the press doesn't work for a certain amount of a game, we're going to see the exact opposite happen. So it's I think it just depends on what side of the pendulum does it swing on more.
Well, and maybe this is, to be full disclosure, this could be just because I watched the entirety of the LSU game, but it seemed like for a while LSU was had a pretty good formula against the full court press, and they were able to say that's not really a thing. And so for a while I was worried. I was like, ugh, now that we're actually looking at SEC competition, is this what we can expect? But
it worked at the end, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it worked. Exactly. Mattered in both instances. It worked at the very end of the game.
And with them losing Mackenzie Mbago, another thing that happened since we've had a podcast, he's done for the season with a broken foot. These Bucky's talked about how undersized they are. They to kind of counteract that, they've run a 2-3 zone at times late in games, and that's been decently effective against both teams as well. I'm just curious to see as they move forward. We'll see how good LSU and Auburn ultimately turn out to be, because it's still really early in the season. And B, Bucky McMillan and this whole system is new. Is there a book made on them by the time they get to the second round of the conference and ways to?
It's impossible, or it's possible. But still, another fun Saturday at Reed Arena. So I'm looking forward to students up.
Duncan Sarge merch?
I don't think I'm going to be able to on Saturday, because I don't think we're going to be able to make it out to that game, but I am absolutely going to purchase something. I hope there's a hat involved, but I might get a t-shirt.
I did see somewhere that if they came out with the Sarge merch last year, it would have been someone trying to draw an offensive charge
Well, yeah, exactly. Right.
or diving football.
And that's why I'm excited for the Reed Rowdies, is because it's a different brand of basketball. And I'm not going to talk about the past too much, because I feel like I've done that enough on this podcast about how I feel about the old regime. But like, if you want a brand of basketball that can really get the home crowd excited, like this is the one. And where a home crowd can actually influence the style of play.
Sure.
Like from a full court press perspective, like a very, very loud arena, I think can bring that up to at least a little bit different level.
They seem to live on momentum.
Yeah, very much.
Because of these ebbs and flows and the game of runs that it really is, especially with buckyball. Yeah, it's all about momentum.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into around the SEC this week, and it's really a national thing, but I will call it SEC because this is actually from Southern Living, not Southern Living. Guys,
Are you a subscriber?
No, because I actually got this off of Yahoo. But it's Girl Scout cookie time.
Favorite time of the year.
So the news of the day is the Toast Yays and the S'mores cookies have been retired, but Explore More's, a cookie inspired by Rocky Road ice cream, will make their debut. And that is a S'more More is filled with delicious flavors of chocolate, marshmallow, and toasted almond flavored cream. They reflect the spirit of exploration in every Girl Scout. So your menu now is Explore More's, Thin Mints, Caramel Delights, which were Samoas, peanut butter patties, which were tagalongs, peanut butter sandwich, do-si-dos, trefoils, and lemonades and adventurefuls. What is your favorite Girl Scout cookie?
For me, it's a tie between Thin Mints and Samoas. I guess they're not Samoas anymore, but they are
Frozen or room temperature?
Ooh.
For
which one?
I've got them stumped.
For the Thin Mints, probably frozen.
Yeah.
Those are good.
You ever had frozen Samoas? Those are pretty darn good too.
I've done frozen Samoas.
Frozen Thin Mints are better than frozen Samoas, but I think Samoas are better than Thin Mints. Does that make sense? Yeah. Samoas are my all-time favorite.
Thin Mints is what short-circuited Tyler.
Yeah, like, oh, wow.
They're pretty
but they're all good. Like, I even like the do-si-dos, which is probably my least favorite. The trefoils are what I bet a lot of people's least favorite, but they're great with a little glass of milk or even some black coffee. And
I'm gonna probably have an unpopular opinion.
Okay,
I'm like the lemonades.
Yeah, they're good. They're good.
Lemon cookie. I think I used to have like lemons.
Like a little. They did.
Those were my favorite.
Yeah, these Samora Moras or whatever they're called.
Those are good.
I think those are going to end up being. What's the
you're talking about the new one?
The new one. What are they called? Explorer Moras.
Are those replacing the s'mores?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And it sounds like they're going to be delicious.
I don't remember those. Have to be new because I don't remember Toast Jays ever.
Yeah. Well,
but
yeah, I don't know. But
season. Well, this is actually kind of the worst because you were just leaving a cookie season.
Yeah.
And
all the
Christmas holidays. I've eaten so many cookies, and then they're gonna throw cookies at us.
I won't be consuming any of those.
Yeah, right.
I have to fit into a suit, Travis. I am not eating any Girl Scout cookies.
When I see them on your desk, I'm going to take a picture.
Okay, please do.
Yeah.
Hold me to that accountability.
Is yours Girl Scout? What?
No, I don't do that. But I'll get the cookies.
We'll find some. We have sources. Well, that's about all the time we have here in studio. You know what? We're going to go and throw on the interview I did with Ryan Henderson, the new Texas A&M commit, right now after this little break. So we'll get to hear a little bit from him. So for Tyler Shaw and Max Crawford, thank you so much for watching this half, and we'll send it right over to me and Ryan Henderson.
Over 40 years ago, my parents started C&J Barbecue, and today we continue to honor Dad's legacy with the best barbecue in the Brazos Valley. With locations on Harvey Road, Southwest Parkway, and our newest location on William Joe Bryan, we carry on our family tradition of serving up award-winning barbecue, sides, and desserts. We also offer delivery, catering, as well as custom menus and private chef services. Come visit us today for some of the best barbecue around. C&J Barbecue. The C is for Chip, the J is for Joe, and the barbecue is for you.
We're here joined with new Texas A&M portal commit Ryan Henderson. He's a defensive end out of San Diego State. Ryan, first off, congrats on the commitment. What went into your decision to pick Texas A&M?
It's just the coaching and how many guys they put in the NFL, and like the scheme that they run is going to allow me to eat and allow me to get sacks and provide for the defense.
Yeah, how was, as you talk to other schools in the portal, how was A&M maybe different than some of the other schools that you talked to in the way that they did portal recruiting?
It's like I felt like the real love. Like they was like really, they loved me, and it was besides football. It was like more of like on like a real connection that they were really trying to get to know me, bond with me, and they just really loved me from the jump.
Yeah, so for A&M fans who haven't seen you play or your skill set, how would you describe your skill set and the kind of player that you are?
Aggressive and finesse. That's the type of player I am. If a puller comes, I want to get into a puller. I want to dent him with both hands and really try to knock back on the offensive tackle. And when it comes down to third downs, it's time to eat. It's time to get to the passer.
A&M just had a player in Cassius Howell who is a defensive end who came from a G5 school, transferred in and was able to lead the SEC in sacks this year in the regular season. How much does a story like that, or did Cassius Howell kind of point you towards A&M when you were looking for a destination?
When I was at San Diego State, I was really watching his highlights like before games really. And I'm like, man, just seeing him come from Bowling Green to A&M and really just do the performance that he done, it really just motivated me. Be like, okay, I put in the ground, I put in the work, I can do the same thing.
So, you had a teammate, I think, here at A&M, and Marcus Ratcliffe. How well do you know him, and how much was he involved in getting you to A&M?
He was, because he had texted me. He was like, hey, bro, the coach is messing with you. Like, they want you to come. I'm going to slide them your number. I'm like, okay, cool. And seeing him at San Diego State as a freshman, he was a dog, man. And just seeing him come to the Texas A&M and just become more of a dog, and they built him to the player he is now, that really motivated me. So I'm like, okay, they can do the same thing with me. So I'm ready.
To that point, what do you like about Mike Elko's defense and having a head coach that is defensive-minded like him?
It's just like he wants to eat. He wants to get to the passer. He wants me to get to the passer, and he's aggressive on defense. And just everything about the defense is great, and it fits my playing style.
His bread and butter is third down, and he lets, like you said, likes to let guys get to the passer. How much do you know about what they do on third down, and how excited are you to be a part of something like that?
I know in the stadium it gets loud in the stadium on third downs, and it's impossible for the opposite team to really hard count on us or do anything against us because the stadium's just so loud. And having a coach like that, like I said, let's go eat. It's hard to stop it. It's hard to.
But also defensive coordinator Lyle Hemphill. How do those conversations go, and what he sees in you?
Man, he sees me as a player that was really underrated. That the scheme that I was in, they really didn't use me how they're supposed to use me. And he was like, bro, we're gonna come in here, we're gonna coach you hard, we're gonna do everything we do, and we're gonna get you right, man. And I was like, that's what I'm looking for, just to build my body and just build as a player so I can reach that next potential.
Mm-hmm. You had a lot of sacks last year. You led the Mountain West. What was maybe one of your favorites?
Probably San Jose when I had 2 sacks. That was probably my favorite because I was really getting to them boys. I was cooking them all game, man.
A&M has gotten a couple of their defensive ends out of the portal this class. Do you know any of those guys? And just what is it like being able to come to a team where there'll be some competition and be some guys to push you?
Man, I love it. I love the competition. I love being uncomfortable. Like that's where I feel like I strive and I get better at when I'm uncomfortable, when I have pressure against me. I'm not a selfish player, so them bringing in other players, it's gonna be like, okay, we got rotation in the room because you don't want a room where it's just you the whole game. Then it's not a good room. So I want the rotation, and they're gonna iron sharpen irons, and we're gonna get each other better.
I want to go back to Cassius just one more time. You know, he had the sack trick or the 3 sacks in a row on that one possession and forced the punt against Utah State. Did you see that? And what did you make of something like that, seeing a guy get 3 sacks in a row?
I can't lie. I was amazed. I'm like, wow, bro really just got 3 sacks in a row. Like, and he was dogging them boys all game. And then I think I seen that the game before I played, and I was like, bro, it motivated me to go crazy.
We'll close it out with this. What are you the most excited about being an Aggie?
The stadium and the fans, that's what I'm most excited about. On the third down, it just gets a rocket, and we turning up with the fans, man. We go get wins. That's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, you know, Mike Elko has mentioned in press conferences and stuff that they really lean on how electric Kyle Field can be during games as part of recruiting. How much did they talk to you show that? How were you able to see just how crazy it is and see what you'll be able to expect when a game time comes?
It's just like I seen videos and I seen the stadium, and it's like it was the biggest stadium I've ever been a part of. And I just seen videos of like he told me that it's like he in the box. And he has water bottles, and the water bottles start getting to shake and falling off the table because it'd be so loud. I'm like, bro, I want to be a part of that.
That's awesome. Well, hey, Ryan, thanks for giving us so much of your time. That's Texas A&M's newest defensive end commit, Ryan Henderson.
Thank you.